All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to another exciting episode of the Conquer podcast, where we discuss digital marketing strategies that will help you to build a business of your dreams. And in this episode number 3, I'm going to discuss how you can use the power of video to attract customers and how you can overcome the fear of a camera. All right. If you follow each of the steps in this podcast and are coachable, you too can use video to create a business that will create positive change in your life and allow you to create a life by design for you and your family. Okay, you see, I used to be nervous to get in front of a camera, and I avoided it for years. I'm not exactly sure why, because I used to teach college design classes, right? I taught graphic design and taught web design, and I spoke in front of large groups of people and teaching them strategies and things of that nature. But when it comes to getting in front of a camera for a long time, I just was a nervous wreck. I think it was the fact that I just didn't like how I came across to the viewer in the end product. Whereas when you're doing things live, you don't really have the end product to look at, so you can't watch yourself. So but all that, it was just a mess. But all that changed once I saw how people used video to build their businesses, and I essentially confronted my fear by forcing myself to talk on camera multiple times a day for months on end. Okay, and after a while, I was no longer fearful. I realized all of it was in my head. Okay, I was just psyching myself out. And by using video on a daily basis, I've now been able to better train my team, attract new business, and also help my customers grow their businesses that have come on board into our program. So that's what we're going to discuss here today, the power of video in your business. All right, so let's dive right into it. First, I just want to go over a few things in regards to the importance of video in digital marketing. Let's talk about current trends. First and foremost, video is proven to show increased engagement to posts, whether it be organic posts or it be targeted campaign posts and automations. It's definitely shown to increase engagement. And I'm going to go over some stats here in a second. But it also improves your SEO for your website, right? So those of you that are familiar with search engine optimization, then you understand that video can help improve your ranking, because it is definitely a medium that people prefer to use and consume, right? And it also has been proven to create higher conversion rates for your campaigns. So basically converting prospects into customers or bringing them into the customer journey, right? And whether maybe they haven't purchased yet, but they've gone in to acquire something for free, the use of video increases those conversions. So I just want to give you guys a few stats that may help you to envision things in regards to these current trends that I'm speaking of. First, here's the first one. I've got about 6 of them, but here's the first one. 89% of consumers want to see more videos from brands, with 69% stating they prefer to learn about a product through a short video. Okay, guys, that's huge. If you're not using video, you're missing a ton of opportunity and potential, right? 89% of consumers prefer video, and they prefer short form video. So guys, once I knew this was enough for me to basically realize that people aren't reading, they're not looking at static stuff as much, so I've got to overcome this fear, right? So essentially I just had to get over it, because I knew that if I was going to stay in business and try to grow a business, I needed to get comfortable with video, and I certainly have done that over the years. So that's your first stat. Your second stat is over 90% of businesses now use video as a marketing tool, all right? And it's indicated that it's a widespread adoption, right? So basically, almost all businesses use video. Now, there's different ways to use video, right? Like not everybody is going to overcome the fear and get in front of a camera and speak. It's just a fact. Like, I've got employees and clients that just refuse to do that. But you can still use video in your targeted ad campaign. So it may not necessarily be a talking head, a person speaking about the product or services that they're promoting, but 90% of businesses are using video, and they're probably using it in their campaigns as well. So I will tell you for a fact, of being an agency owner for well over a decade, is that yes, this is true. The majority of the content that we create, whether it be motion graphics or a speaking individual, is video, right? So 90% of businesses are now using video. So if you're not using video, again, you're missing out. Stat number 3, 88% of marketers report a positive return on investment from video marketing. So again, like I was just telling you, 88% of people are telling you that they have more positive results from the use of video as opposed to just using static images. People want to engage with motion. It's more engaging to watch a video than it is to look at an image, right? So again, use of video in your campaigns, whether it be organically or strategically used within campaigns, targeted campaigns. All right, stat number 4, 82% of buyers have been influenced by video content when making a purchase decision. All right, so again, every one of these numbers so far has been 82% or higher. So if you're not using video, or if you have some fear of being on camera and being on video, guys, if you're a business owner, you need to get over it. Just like I did, right? I'm just going to be straight up with you. I had to get over speaking on camera, and we'll go over some tips about how to get over that a little bit later. All right, stat number 5, right? 81% of consumers report increased trust in a brand after watching a video from them. All right, so again, we're over 80% here in this stat too. People are going to trust. They're going to trust a brand more by looking at content on a video as opposed to static stuff. Why? My personal opinion is because we buy things from people we know, like, and trust. That's it. And you really can't get a feel for a brand or people that you're buying from unless you hear them talk and see how they present themselves and listen to the words that they're using and things of that nature, right? Like, how many of you have gone to a car dealership and bought a car from somebody that doesn't speak? 0%, right? Like, so over 80% of consumers trust brands that use video. All right. And stat number 6, nearly 70% of digital video audiences prefer watching videos on their smartphones, right? So, all right, now we've dipped below 80%, but we're still at 70% of people prefer watching video on their phones. Now, I don't know how much I agree 100% with that, because I do believe it's mostly from the fact that we always have our phones in our hands, right? So prefer to watch it. I prefer to watch something on a very large screen. I just don't have it available, and I don't walk around with a large screen TV in my hands. So I think that's really plays into that factor. But still, 70% of people prefer watching video on smartphones. So smartphones and small video formats and short form video, you just need to learn how to perfect that skill, because it's going to help you grow your business. Okay. All right. Next, I want to talk about, excuse me, real quick. Got to get a drink. Gosh, I got a sore throat here, guys, today, but we're trying to get through this podcast episode. Excuse me. All right, next section. Let's talk a little bit about visual appeal. All right, I want to talk to you, like, let's face it. When we look at things that are moving, it becomes, as far as visual aspects are concerned, it becomes much more engaging. We want to engage with it. We want to interact with it. Like things that are kind of like moving around in space, whether it be a talking human and they're talking with their hands like I am now, but of course you can't see that. Or whether it be like motion graphics to be able to show like charts and graphs or how a product actually works and functions. It's much more appealing and outperforms static imagery. For a long time, I tried to avoid video by creating static posts. And of course, my conversion rates were way worse than they were once I perfected the craft of using video or being comfortable with being on video, right? So your conversion rates are going to be significantly higher because of the visual appeal and the emotional impact, right? People buy off of emotions, right? So it's very hard to help get your prospect or your audience to display an emotion through just static imagery. It's a little bit easier when you're talking to them or you're using music and motion to actually help people understand what it is you're talking about. So the visual appeal of video is a huge factor, okay? All right. So next, let's talk about defining your perfect customer. All right. So this is really important. You're probably thinking like, why are we going to talk about your perfect customer? We're supposed to be talking about video in this episode. Well, this is important, guys. If you don't know your customer profile, then you don't know who you're talking to. And in order to get a result from the use of video, you need to know how to speak to somebody. So it's the same thing when you're teaching a college class. So I'll use my college reference again. When I was teaching graphic designers how to build web pages, I needed to understand different qualities and aspects of the students in my class. It's the same thing when you're targeting your audience of maybe they're people that are buying motorcycle parts, whatever. You need to understand a bunch of different things about them. And when you understand these things, then you're going to be able to speak more intelligently to them, and you're going to be able to speak in their language, right? So let's go over a list of a bunch of things that I have written down here that will help you understand your customer profile just a little bit better. You need to be able to understand how to define your ideal customer, their demographic, their psychographic, and their behavioral traits, guys. All right, so maybe you want to grab a pen and pencil and write some of these down, okay? So the first and foremost thing you need to understand is your age and gender of who your audience is. Are they, are 20 to 30 range or 40 to 50 age range? Are they male? Are they female? Whatever. You need to know that. You also need to know their income level. So like, are they a low income or a high income type of prospect, right? Like if you're talking about, again, I'll talk about motorcycle parts just because that's one of the things that we help our clients promote. You're going to have to be talking to somebody who is a little bit better off to be able to handle that sport, because it's not a cheap sport, right? So you need to know their income level so you can know how to talk to them. Just a range, guys, not the exact salaries, but you also need to know their education and occupation. So what type of educational background do they have? Do they hold certain type of jobs? Where exactly are they? So you know what words to use. If you're talking to a lower income prospect for your product or service, then you're not going to want to talk super with super fancy words, right? You're going to want to be able to talk to them with words that they can understand and simplify it a little bit. You want to know their location. Where are they located in the world? What country or what state or geographic location within the U.S., down to counties or local areas. Where are they located? So you can talk to them in your video in the language that they understand about the things that the locations that they lived. You want to understand their interests and hobbies. Obviously, again, who somebody's going to race some four-wheelers is going to have specific interests that they're curious about, right? And they have certain hobbies, as opposed to maybe somebody that lives in the city and really likes fine art, whatever. Understand their interests and hobbies. Next, their values and attitudes. Like what type of values do these individuals have? Are they conservative? Are they more liberal? I'm not getting into politics here, but I'm just saying, like, understand what their values are. What type of attitudes they have? Do they have a good attitude, positive attitude? Are they, have a certain outlook on things? Really kind of understand that individual. Next, what's their lifestyle? Do they live a lavish lifestyle where they're actually Like they like fancy things, or is it more of a simplistic lifestyle? Do they like outdoors and nature? Do they like the indoors and cities? Whatever. Understand their lifestyle. Understand their purchasing behaviors as well. Okay, what do they like to buy? Where do they like to buy that stuff? Okay, how often do they buy these things? These are all important things for you to know. Understand their usage rates of products. So, how often do they need the specific product that you're trying to persuade them to invest in? Okay, do they buy it often? Do they buy it monthly? Do they buy it once a year? Do they buy it once in their lifetime? Whatever it may be. So, understand the usage rates of the products. Understand their customer loyalty. What keeps them coming back for more? So, like if it's a product, I don't know, food, for example, if it's a specific food item that you're promoting, maybe you sell gift baskets online. You know, do they keep coming back and every yearly, or do they come back multiple times a year? Whatever it may be. Do they want to be involved in a monthly program where they're delivered, packages monthly? Whatever. Understand what keeps them coming back, why they like to come back, so you can speak to them about this stuff, right? Really understand these people down to the T, right? You really have to make sure that you understand who they are so you can speak to them intelligently and be helpful to them, because ultimately you're trying to help them solve a problem, right? Okay. Moving on to the next topic. So you want to be able to tailor content. So you want to be able to create video content that speaks directly to the identified characteristics of the perfect customer. So exactly what I was saying a little bit earlier is that tailor your content to them. Okay. Now, be authentic, right? You don't want to be fake. You don't want to be somebody that you're not, because people will sense that immediately, right? Like, and they're not going to have interest in communicating with you because they're like, oh, this guy's fake. He's just trying to sell me something. But be authentic, right? Be yourself. Tailor your content to speak to them, because when you're speaking to them about a problem that they may have and how you have a solution that solves that problem, you're going to get their attention. All right. So make sure that your content is, and your video content is developed specifically for them. All right. Next, let's talk about crafting engaging video content. So there are different types of content types that we can go over here, and I'm just briefly going to hit on them today, as for the sake of time. But there, you can create video content that's a testimonial. You can create video content that are product demos, right? You can create behind the scenes footage. You can create how each can appeal to different aspects of the customer's journey. Like, so how is your product going to solve, a little problem in the beginning, all right? Because maybe they're a cold lead, and how's it going to appeal to them in that part? But at the end, once they get into your system and you solved a simple problem for them, then maybe your next video content is going to speak to larger problems, which will allow you to then promote and sell larger priced products for that customer. So how do each of these areas within the customer journey affect the customer, right? And how can you speak to them differently in each area, so you're helping them continue to solve problems? And as you continue to help them solve problems, they're going to continue to know, like, and trust you, and therefore really invest into the different programs that you have to offer. So those are just a few different content types. All right, next topic, emotional connection. Okay. Let's talk about a little bit about storytelling. And this is a whole episode in and of itself, but humans love stories. All right. Now, going back to my college days, I used to take a lot of film and animation classes. So I understand the aspect of storytelling, but a lot of people that get involved in business that don't have that type of background don't necessarily understand storytelling. And basically, humans are attracted to stories, especially stories that are, again, speaking from a person's experience, with a product or service that has helped them better their lives, right? So whenever you're crafting your video content, let's try to create it in such a way that it tells a story so that you can actually really deeper connect to your prospects and your consumer, the people that are actually looking and consuming your content. So use storytelling whenever you're talking about your products or services, right? I kind of did a little bit of that in the beginning of this episode, right? Like with the beginning of this episode, I was started to tell you about how I used to be nervous in front of a camera and all that stuff, and eventually I overcame that, right? I was telling you a small story, right? So that's really important. Make sure that you understand that. All right, next, let's see. Sorry, I lost my place there. Next, let's talk a little bit about emotional triggers. All right, you need to be able to create emotional triggers whenever you're crafting these stories or these pieces of content that make a deeper connection with your viewer. Okay, so for example, you wanted to let's say you're selling a product let's say you're selling a wetsuit. I don't know why I thought of wetsuit, it just popped in my head, but let's say you're talking about promoting a wetsuit. You want to create some emotional triggers that really grab your viewer, right? You need to start telling your story about how, oh my gosh, you were out there in the cold and you were freezing when you were surfing, and you thought the water was going to be much warmer, when you realized that you actually needed a wetsuit to stay warm because you didn't want to stop surfing, but you had to get out of the water because it was so daggone cold. That's not the best example in the world, but you get where I'm going with this, is that essentially you need to create an emotional trigger and connect with them so that the viewer will continue to watch and consume your video to get to the end. And when they get to the end, they're going to get to the call to action, right? You're going to ask them to do something, right? They're going to take an action at the end of the video. So create emotional triggers that make a deeper connection with your viewers. All right, next, let's talk a little bit about strategic distribution and optimization. All right, I'm going to go over this stuff relatively quick because all of these could be an episode in them of themselves, but you need to select a platform that you're comfortable with, right? You need to choose a platform that you feel that your target audience is located at, where they're hanging out. So in regards to social media, there's lots of different platforms, right? There's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads, Pinterest, I guess would be one, on and on and on. Depending on what it is that you're selling, you need to select the platform where your people are hanging out. And then start with one, right? So learn how to craft for that platform and perfect that one, and then down the road you can expand to others. But let's start with one. So finding the platform that is perfect for the distribution of your content where your target audience spends their most time. All right. Next, SEO for video. So there are a bunch of key strategies for optimizing video content for search engines and social media that will allow you to increase visibility and attract the ideal audience. So you need to be able to create content and use relevant keywords when you're doing your posts. So at the tail end, you might want to select I don't know, again, wetsuits. So wetsuit would be one. Surfing could be one. Whatever it may be. You need to go out and do your research and find a handful. I'd say I typically use no more than 5 keywords per post that will target your audience, because the search engines are going to catch that, and then that's how they deliver the content. You want to be able to create high quality content too, because SEO loves high quality content. If the content's no good, they're not going to want to recommend it to people. So create engaging high quality content. You want to optimize your video thumbnails. Make sure that your video thumbnails are attractive, not only in a visual sense, because a lot of times they're just a screen grab of a portion of the video, but you can custom create them and use words within them that are attracting your audience, right? So optimize your video thumbnails. Leverage video transcripts. If you have transcripts of the videos, then by all means use them. Sometimes people like to craft the copy content and then use a teleprompter. And if that's the case, then you've already got the transcript when you go ahead and you do the post, or you can use tools that will go and they'll transcribe the actual words that are being said in the video. These are the type of things that search engines, social media platforms love, because then they can actually read that stuff and then help use it to help deliver the content to the right audience. All right. Promote your video. So after you've gone through all this work, go out there and promote it, right? Make sure that you use it in different areas. You might create a piece of content on YouTube, then use the URL, the link for that piece of content in an email blast. Use it on on other social media platforms. There's nothing, don't rely on just the organic side of things and the search engines to deliver it yourself too. And then monitor the performance and adapt, guys. You want to make sure that you actually are going to keep an eye on the stuff that you've created and see how it performs. If it doesn't perform well, then kill it, right? Like, and make adjustments. And well, I guess you don't have to kill it, but just like make adjustments and make the next one better based on the things that you've learned from the content that you've already created. All right. Next section, how to overcome the fear of the camera. All right. This is simple, guys. You're probably thinking there's this whole process, right? So many people are scared of being on camera, just like I was. Well, guess what? It's all in your head. This is what I learned from after months and months and months of me actually working on myself. You know what the solution was, guys? Practice. Just a little bit of practice. That's it. I got over the fear by simply forcing myself to do reps every day for months until I became comfortable, right? You don't have to post this stuff. And it's going to feel uncomfortable, and you're going to be awful in the beginning, because God knows I surely was. I was terrible. I was awful. If you were listening to some of these videos that I created, it was awful. I sounded so unprofessional. I was so nervous. Nobody would listen to me. But here's the thing. Nobody's seeing it anyhow. If you don't post it, nobody's going to see it. And if you do post it, nobody's going to see it, because it takes you time to build up your brand. So that's the simple solution. How to overcome the fear of the camera. Pull out your phone, hit record, and just start talking. Just start talking about the things that you know. And here's what I did. I did it 3 times a day for 60 days, right? As a starting point. For 60 days, 3 times a day, I created content. I posted it on TikTok. I even hid the account from I even created a separate account that my friends and family wouldn't see, because I was so nervous about them watching and the crap that I would get, the input that I would get from them. When in reality, it doesn't matter. I don't really care now anyhow, right? So practice, guys. Put in the reps. That's the key to overcoming your fear, just like everything else, right? All right, so what did we learn here today in this episode? It's gone a little bit longer, but that's okay, because it's an important episode. First of all, we went over how we can use the power of video to attract customers. I gave you guys 6 different great stats proving that your current trends are showing that video is really important and you just need to be using it, period. We talked just briefly about the visual appeal of video in your content. We talked a little bit about creating your customer profile for your perfect customer, right? Who exactly are they? Where are they located? All of those things. We talked about that. We talked about tailoring your content towards those people. And then we also talked briefly about a few different types of content, right? And the emotional connections that you should be using, 2 of them that you should be using when you're crafting your content. And then finally, we went over a few things like your platform selection, and then a few SEO tips and how to overcome the fear of the camera. All right. I know that sounds like a lot of stuff in 29 minutes, and it is. Honestly, we just went through an overview of video. We could take each one of these sections and do an entire episode. And as a matter of fact, I'm probably going to do that. I'm probably going to take note to create deeper dives into each of these areas. But today, for the sake of just going over this, I wanted to just briefly skim over some things that would be beneficial to you when you're actually working on building your business. All right. So that's essentially the episode that we have here today. So, hey, I want to invite you guys to take the chance to subscribe to this podcast. We're only in episode 3 right now, but I'm really excited about doing this new podcast this year. I'm still doing the Impact podcast, but the Conquer podcast is important to me. It really would mean the world if you could actually go to any of the areas that this is being broadcast. You can actually, if you go to jeffwelsh.com, jeffwelsh.com, and then click on podcast in the header, it'll take you to a page where you can see the exact buttons and links for the podcast being broadcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So go to any of those locations, subscribe. It really would mean the world to me. I'd really appreciate it. All right, guys, I want to also encourage you to, interact with these episodes. If you have some comments or questions, by all means, give me your input. I can't make this thing better if I don't hear back from you guys, or I can make the thing better, but I'm not going to be hitting things that you guys are going to come up with. So please interact and give me some suggestions, give me some comments, some praise, if you feel generous enough, and that would be awesome. Okay? All right, guys, I really appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to hop in on this next episode of the Conquer podcast. And gosh, typically right here, I will tell you what the next episode's about, but I haven't decided what episode 4 is going to be about. So we're going to leave it a surprise. And thanks so much. I appreciate you joining me here today, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Conquer Digital Marketing Podcast. Take care.